It's Cageside with John Morgan.
And welcome everybody back to another episode of Cageside with John Morgan. I'm your host, Eric McMahon. UFC 325 this week. Alexander the Great Volkanovski with another title defense against Diego Lopes and ran away with it, let's be honest. Overall, pretty good card. We'll get into some of the other fights on the card. And then we're going to have the GOAT discussion. A lot of people are mentioning the GOAT right now. We are going to have that GOAT discussion. So to help break it all down, we're going to bring in the man. His name is on the marquee. You can follow him on X, John Morgan _MMA. What's up, pal?
What's going on, man? I am in good spirits, brother. I mean, we had back-to-back numbered events. Man, Paramount, can we just give them some kudos for delivering, man? I want to talk about that a little bit. And CFFC is back this week as well. So MMA in full swing for me, man. I am excited to get into it.
Well, let's get into it. UFC 325 this past weekend from Sydney, Australia. The main card was cool, man. It was a good main card, obviously headlined by Volkanovski and Lopes, but we also had Dan Hooker, BSD, Fiziev, Ruffy. That was a fight we definitely need to talk about. Tai Tuivasa and Taliesin Teixeira kind of rounds it out with Skalid and Malarkey opening up the card. But let's just get into it right off the bat. Alexander Volkanovski, Diego Lopes. Here is the pre-fight discussion I had with a good friend of mine who's also a huge fan. I said, when are we going to see the drop-off? In my opinion, there's going to be a fight that we see the drop-off with Volkanovski. And I think everybody was looking at it that, Ilia Topuria may have delivered that drop-off moment for him. But then he comes back. He wins the title against Diego Lopes 1. Looks good doing it. Then looked spectacular in 2. And he ran away from it. I actually gave him all 5 rounds. I know some different. I think it kind of varied on other judges. One judge gave him all 5 rounds. 2 other judges gave Lopes 1, but they were differing rounds. I mean, I think they were all close to that degree. But in my opinion, Volk was just doing more, landing the bigger shots and, countering better. His in and out is spectacular. What did you make of the overall fight?
Well, you touched on a number of good things. I mean, at 37 years old, right, there does have to be a drop-off at some point. You just can't, especially in these lighter weight classes. At heavyweight, maybe light heavyweight, you can fight a little bit longer and keep sharp, but there's going to be a drop-off. But it's just not there right now. I mean, this guy is, first of all, just the entire experience, right? I mean, Volkanovski is so dialed in and enjoying himself and just feeling the moment. And the crowd is feeling it as well. I mean, to see their excitement level, to see, him coming into the minute work and just really, really soaking it all in. It's spectacular to see. But the relaxation that Volk has, I mean, it's just incredible that he's able to really perform at that high level at this point in his career. And listen, you're spot on about the judging. Ben Cartledge gave him round 2. Sal D'Amato gave Diego Lopes round 3. It was Clemens Warner that had all 5 rounds. I did think there was a case for 2 and 3. But it was one of those fights that, like, even if you said, hey, I think this should have been 48-47, it's like, yeah, but there's no controversy. There's no, 48. Like, you can have a 50-45 fight that's really close, right? You can also have a 48-47 fight that doesn't feel like it's close at all. So I just the mental state of Alexander Volkanovski, we talk about it all the time, right? How you're able to just slow things down, how when you're a real veteran in there, like things just unfold at a different pace. He's at that. And Diego Lopes is a stud. Alexander Volkanovski kind of said it afterwards, and I feel the same. He's like, I kind of feel bad that Diego Lopes just had to fight me 2 times because he is really good. And in a different era with a different champion, maybe he walks away. But I think those guys could fight 10 times and Volkanovski wins all 10 of them.
I don't know if I haven't seen this talked about, but maybe you have noticed it. I've noticed the difference. Like, I think the evolution of Volkanovski is, I think we see the evolution of why we're not seeing the drop off. And the evolution is I'm fighting smarter, not harder. I'm fighting defensive first instead of offensive first like he used to. I'm noticing, and it could just be that I'm forgetting his past, but I am noticing he is a counter striker a lot more now. He is not leading the dance like he has to. If we go back to like the Holloway fights, he's popping in and out, in and out. He's leading the dance, and he's leaving the other people like, this guy's fast. He hits hard. I don't know what's going on. I don't know when to pick my shots. And I'm seeing an evolution of Volkanovski of like, he's saying, I'm going to retreat a little bit, but just to this point, then I'm going to jump in and out, and then I'm going to reset, and we're going to do it all over. And are you noticing it, or is that just me being crazy?
No, I think you're spot on. I think what we're really seeing is just the masterclass that he has in the space and the footwork and all the tactician. You talk about fight IQ. I think that's it, right? I mean, I think in the early days, maybe it's kind of just reckless aggression and pressing the pace and trying to inflict your will on somebody. But then, as you gain experience and gain knowledge and really up that fight IQ, that's when you're able to dictate things a little bit better. And because of that, you're able to go more in the flow rather than just try to be a bull in a china shop and just overwhelm somebody. And I think, again, and that's why I talk about, when things kind of slow down and you really have an understanding of what's happening and where it's happening and how it's happening. I think Volk has just become such an excellent tactician. The dude is good, man. He's just absolutely good, man. You can't say it much better than that.
Yeah, and I just look at it from a standpoint of, I believe at his age, 37. Is that correct? 37?
37, yep.
I believe that he just really doesn't want to wade in the fire as often. And he kind of realizes that, listen, I have seen it all. I've done it all. Like, where's my best and easiest path rather than my most spectacular path and imposing my dominance? And I look at it, if your name's not Ilia Topuria, like right now in this division, I think he's got another couple of years because the drop off, like when you are hitting the gas, right, and you're hitting full throttle and you're moving forward and you're jumping in or out, that's taxing you a lot. Like if we were still doing that, then yeah, maybe I think we'd see the drop off. But since he's not fighting that way anymore and he's not changing it up, I mean, how many takedown attempts did he have this fight? One maybe. One, and he didn't get it, and I think that was just like, I'm going to keep you honest. It was a half-hearted takedown attempt. I believe it was in late round 1 or maybe round 2, but I just don't think he wants to go speed on speed and fire with the younger guys. But he's willing to just backtrack a little bit, pick my spots in and out, and keep you utterly confused the whole time. I think it's brilliant what he's doing.
I agree. And official stats, I guess he had a few more than we remember. Official stats had him at 2 of 7 on the takedown attempts. But those 2 came in the 5th round, at which point everything was kind of wrapped up. But I'm like you, the early takedown attempts, I didn't even really feel like he was necessarily like, I need this takedown. It was just like, let me keep you honest. Let me keep you thinking about all aspects of the game, which is key, right? I mean, that is such a key in mixed martial arts, is not letting anything settle in on one aspect of the game. Because if I know you got a takedown, I can defend that. If I know we're standing up, I can defend that. All that is very possible. And I think he was just trying to kind of keep things mixed up and just tactical brilliance. I think he is fighting smarter. I think he realizes, he's a family man like us. He's a family man. He knows he's not trying to get himself in any more physical danger and trouble than he needs to be. He's out there fighting smart. And, man, I mean, we've got a new number 1 contender fight lined up. But, Mo Sarevloev versus Lerone Murphy, we know now that that's going to happen in March in England, as had been rumored. I don't know that I favor any of them. I mean, I think people are looking at this a little bit differently now after that performance. Because if you look at it, it's funny. I mean, on the one hand, you could look at Alexander Volkanovski and you could say, man, tail end of his career, he's had a lot of losses lately. I mean, he's actually really just 3-3 in his last 6 fights, but the losses are to Ilia Topuria and Islam Makhachev. So it's like, oh, come on, man, settle down a little bit. He hasn't. I mean, technically, he hasn't lost to anybody in his division, right? Because they all moved up to welterweight and lightweight. So the dude is a star. He's a phenomenal representative of the sport, and you're right, man. I mean, the fall off is coming. It'll have to. It just, Father Time is undefeated, but it's not there right now.
And I don't know if it was because he was a really big guy at one point and now he's fighting. I mean, he was a rugby player at over 200 pounds, right? And so whether that I just don't know the reason, but hey, good for him. But I mean, I think that number one contender fight, I'm almost going to liken it to, kind of where John Jones, the whole John Jones discussion is right now. It's like, yeah, there's always a newer, younger guy. And then he's like, I dispatch him. You know what I mean? It's like, why would I go fight Tom Aspinall? Because he's the flavor of the week, And so I really do think we can start getting into, which I want to have. We're going to go through the rest of the card, but we're going to double back to this. And just put it in the back of your head right now. The GOAT conversation. I think it comes down to two guys. Maybe you could throw McGregor in there. We'll get into that conversation here in a bit, but I do want to go through the rest of the card. So with that being said, the co-main event, Dan Hooker, Benoit Saint Denis. Dan Hooker coming in the number 6 ranked in the division, BSD number 8, but BSD was a big favorite, right? And we said, hey, if this fight ends in round number 1, BSD, that's his round. The further you go on, the more likelihood that Dan Hooker, how tough he is, and what we saw, that maybe the deficiency in BSD when we saw him against Poirier, and faded heavily in that round 2, that would favor Dan Hooker. That's not the way it went. And Dan Hooker, he's tough as nails. Like, we're not going to say it. I think he had a really good game plan with him. Let's attack the body. Let's stay at range. But looking at the fight, I ended up being so confused about the way Dan Hooker decided to try and stave off takedowns, because he didn't. He tried to only throw in a ninja choke on every single attempt. And you know what? Everybody thought he got close on all the attempts. And to a degree, I guess, maybe he got close. But I think BSD knew the way out of it every time. So he was like, I'm just going to keep trying to finish. Okay, it's tight. Let me gator roll out of this really quick, reset and do it again. And eventually I'm going to get in deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's exactly what happened. So a lot of people think BSD lost the first round. He maybe did. Dan Hooker did hit him some good body shots. He tore him up. But the way BSD fought that was, I'm just going to get you down. And the way Dan Hooker defended those left me questioning, did we work wrestling takedowns in this camp?
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed in that as well, because on the feet, Dan Hooker, as you said, very, very effective, man. Those little kicks to the body, man, he was doing some damage there.
He looked phenomenal on the feet. Phenomenal.
But Benoit had that poker face, right? He was trying to make it like he wasn't hurt, but you could see how hurt he was. But I agree, those grappling exchanges, you saw some real deficiencies there. And I don't know if it's tactically or just he's not I don't know. I don't get it, man. I really don't understand it. And you know what? And I don't want to take away from Benoit. From BSD, I thought this was a phenomenal. I mean, this was a step up, right? Like, now you got to have him in those conversations at the top of the division with, is it number 1 contender fight next or something along those lines, because he's got this win streak together and he doesn't look like the guy that had those losses early in the career. It looks like he's evolving, right? That's what I feel like, because I think a lot of people are in the same boat as us. I saw a lot of people, sharp analysts that were saying, man, give me this Dan Hooker underdog money all day long. Like, this is going to be a battle. And Hooker's the guy to kind of outlast all that. So I think a lot of people were kind of siding with us, but this was a step up, an evolution for Benoit Saint Denis. And I do, again, it's a little bit of a head scratcher in terms of the tactics for Hooker, because he was so effective on the feet. I would think he would have a better plan in place, but I also don't want to take away from BSD and what he accomplished there.
We can't. He utterly dominated. When he got his position, he utterly dominated. And he wasn't outclassed on the feet. He just was losing the exchanges, but he wasn't completely outclassed. But this is where I go back to, what do I know? I want to go against what do I know and what we can do. And that's the way I look at breaking down fights. And what I thought Dan Hooker was going to do is exactly what he did on the feet. And then what I thought he was going to do when BSD wanted to get that grab, I thought he was going to make him work a lot harder.
Agreed.
Right? I thought he was going to sprawl. I thought he was going to try and chain wrestle back up. I thought he was going to do a lot of things. But every time BSD came in, he just tried to throw in, people call it a guillotine, but it's really more of a ninja choke at that point, like whatever you want to call it, right? And he really looked like he was only like, hey, and maybe they just saw something in practice that he kept on going back to that well. But it didn't honestly make BSD work very hard.
Agreed.
I believe you could have made him work a lot harder. And if you would have made him work a lot harder, that only plays into Dan Hooker's hands.
Yeah, I agree, because that's what we thought, right? Is that BSD is going to wear out, Dan Hooker will not wear out, and he's going to push until the very end, and he didn't make him do that. I thought the second round was, I don't know, I was a little disappointed because you're a if you're a fight fan, you're a Dan Hooker fan, right? Because that dude is just coming out. He's going to be in a fight every time. He's great on the mic. I mean, everything about Dan Hooker, and I just felt like the finish of that fight, and as you said, the tactics that led to it were just a little bit disappointing from Hooker. So I was puzzled. I don't know, whether any physical issues coming in, was it something psychological in the moment? Was it, as you said, just, man, this was working in practice, I was catching everybody with it, so this is going to be my thing? I don't know, but I was a little bit disappointed at the end of that fight in the way it played out. But again, in saying that, I know you're with me. I always hate when I'm disappointed, so that I'm like, you know what, I need to go back and give Benoit Saint Denis as much credit as possible, because that guy is becoming a factor in the division now. You know what I mean? He really is, and kind of this new guard, right? I mean, you're going to see a turnover in the division, and some of the stars of lightweight are getting older. And not that Benoit's a young guy. He is 30 already, so he's not like a brand new fresh face, but he's got a lot left in the tank, and he's going to be a factor in that division.
Well, so he was ranked 8th in the division, and Dan Hooker was
6 coming in, yeah,
6 in the division. So, I mean, it's a top 5 matchup for him moving forward. I mean, I don't think that's up for discussion. And, he looked awfully good through a round against the Dustin Poirier, even at, a year and a half ago now. So I think we do see the evolution of it, where he didn't just try to steamroll with punches like he did. Poirier tried to steamroll and punches and then wore himself out grappling. And if you notice something like what he did here, like, he did not chase a submission against Dan Hooker. He chased the brutality of somewhere where he could stay and be, if Dan Hooker decided to give him something, he would take it, but really a place where he was going to conserve his energy. And he could, I mean, if you're in that mounted position and you're grappling to that mount, you can rain down punches all day long and not really drain your gas tank, as opposed to trying your hardest to throw in submissions and things of that nature. And he didn't chase it, and he did chase it a lot against Poirier in his loss back then, but he didn't now. So I think we are seeing that evolution out of him as well, which just, is a force to reckon with in that division moving forward.
I agree. I think he's getting better every time. And that's what you like to see, when people are getting better and improving their skills, their tactics, everything. I think he is. And listen, we don't know what's going to be next for him, but, he kind of mentioned the name. Maybe Arman Tsarukyan would be the one. I mean, we know Arman's not getting a title fight off of nothing. So, this might be the matchup. We've got Oliveira and Holloway coming up, but I don't know that necessarily. I don't know that either of those guys are necessarily interested in facing Benoit Saint Denis. I don't mean that.
Why wouldn't Arman get a title shot? Let's just start there really quick.
Well, he's not getting a title shot. Well, hey, headbutting Dan Hooker, we know that didn't help his cause at all. But, Arman Tsarukyan, look, he's had his issues with UFC brass. He had the opportunity. He wasn't able to make weight. He had the injury, et cetera. But he just hasn't been in the UFC's good graces. So he's not getting a title shot come next. And, now you got Gaethje as the interim champ. And so there's other things to do in the meantime. So I think that's the answer right there. I think you do Benoit Saint Denis and Arman Tsarukyan. I think maybe that's the fight to make next. Because, again, if you look at anybody else that's up there, Paddy Pimblett is still at number 5. I don't think, we'll see when the rankings come out, I don't think Benoit Saint Denis will hot Paddy Pimblett. Maybe he will. But I think he'll be right behind him. But I don't know that that's necessarily the fight to make, especially coming off a loss. You'll probably want to build Paddy back up. So, and again, Oliveira, Holloway, they're matched up. And again, the winner there, I don't know that they're going to be interested in that fight. So to me, the logical next fight for me is Arman Tsarukyan. So I think Tsarukyan and BSD is the way.
If Ilya is not ready to go by the White House card, do you throw in Arman for Gaethje? Just curious. I know we're going down a rabbit hole now that I didn't plan on, but.
Yeah. I would. I would. Now, will Dana White? I don't know. They just don't seem to have that faith in him, and they've kind of mentioned.
Well, I mean, let's look at it. He pulls out of a card, right?
Yep.
Day of.
Yep.
For whatever reasons, right? Did I not work hard? Whatever. Okay. You punch a fan. You headbutt Dan Hooker. Like,
And Dan Hooker came out and said that broke his nose, right? He came out and said that broke his nose.
Are we looking at it from is Dana White and the UFC brass looking at it from a standpoint of like, I'm not putting John Jones on the White House card because I just can't trust him? Is that the same way they are looking at Arman? You think I just
believe
can't
so.
trust that you're not going to do something completely stupid?
Yeah, and I believe they are, to be honest with you. I really do believe so. And they want this White House card to deliver big, right? I mean, obviously, it's a once-in-a-lifetime event. I mean, they'll never be back at the White House. It's going to be on network television, from what we understand. It's going to be a big production. You know, the Sphere was tough because if you had any late changes, they had these, like, graphics renderings that would take literally like a day to render the graphics. So it would be, terrible. If you talk about having these late changes, it's annoying because the people have to go back and change all these production things. And so it's a strain, but obviously the staff always gets it done. The Sphere, that would have been like literally physically impossible just because of the computing power. I think at the White House, it would be possible. I don't think there's going to be anything like that, but they don't want any changes. I think this is Dana White, feels like his reputation's on the line. The UFC's reputation is on the line. And so they're not going with anybody they can't trust. And I believe they feel like they can't trust Arman Tsarukyan. So that's why I say it with a laugh. If for some reason Ilya's not ready to go, I would do it. But I don't think the UFC would do it.
How good did Mauricio Ruffy look?
Amazing. That was a big, big win for him. A much-needed fight, a much-needed result. I'll be honest, I didn't know, and I don't know if it was public or not. I hadn't heard the story about his brother passing in the month before his fight. I wasn't aware of any of that. So to know that he had a very, very heavy heart as well, man, tough. But great win. Tough for Rafael Fiziev because now he's in a position. I was doing my updated rankings yesterday actually, and man, he tumbles way down, and you kind of wonder because Fiziev is such a fun fighter, man. He's fun on his social media. He's a great stylistic, but he takes a big tumble. But a big win for Mauricio Ruffy, and man, he looked phenomenal. And now he looks like that guy that we thought he was. Obviously, you had tagged him by being in the cage with him, and he kind of slipped back. We said, "Uh-oh, is this going to be unfulfilled potential?" But now he looks like that guy.
Yeah, I mean, his frame at 155 too is like big frame guy. I mean, he was big at 70 when he jumped in the Contender Series, right? But at 55, I mean, he's got a really big, long frame. He fights long with that, karate Conor McGregor-esque stance. You know what I mean? So. And so, yeah, I mean, he was fighting good, and it was a very close first round, but I think he was getting timing. He was lining up those shots, and he's unorthodox. He'll throw like a little spinning kick here and there, and he'll throw some weird stuff out there to kind of keep you frozen in your track. And then, bam! Conventionally, he comes with just a straight right and knocks Fiziev into next week.
Unbelievable. The power that he packs, the creativity that he packs. It's unbelievable. The volume a little bit. And again, he set things up. And again, I think there was maybe some hesitation, maybe some feeling out, maybe some, whatever. I do, as he evolves, and he's going to continue to evolve as he evolves. I do hope he doesn't fall in love with, I got to land that one shot. I got to land that one highlight reel shot. You see people become a victim of that sometimes, right? Where they have a highlight reel finish and it's like, boy, I got to land that highlight reel shot. And obviously, dude, the success comes from just touching, just keep putting on it. And so I want to see as he evolves, I hope that he doesn't fall in love with, hey, I got to land this acrobatic, highlight reel finish every time, because as you said, man, just the basics are incredibly effective as well. So I think the hype train is starting once again, right? It's starting to build behind him, or maybe some people have jumped out, but that's the one thing I want to pay attention to as he continues to make his way up the ranks.
Tai Tuivasa.
And by the way, hopefully they just keep giving him strikers, by the way. Hopefully they just keep him against strikers as long as possible.
Yeah. Tai Tuivasa needed it, didn't get it. And a fight that I thought he could have won, especially in round 3. But the gas tank just wasn't there. And it got sloppy late. You know what I mean? He's still a fun enough fighter that he won't get cut over this, will he?
That's a tough one, right? I
mean, what's the losing streak at now?
5, I believe now. 5 straight. Yeah. And so that's the problem. And I imagine, making pretty decent money too, because he commanded such star power early in his career, and gosh, I apologize, it's 6 straight now.
Yeah,
at this point, I thought it was 5. It was 5 coming in. So, listen, I mean, the star power early on, he had some big matchups early, so I imagine he's making pretty good money. He had all those performance of the night bonuses and that stuff early on. I would have no problem keeping him around. I think he's a big enough star. If this is John Morgan in the war room and I'm talking to Mick Maynard and we're making the call.
They watch the podcast.
Yeah, they know. So I'm going to make my case now. Mick, I think this guy's a big enough star and he's fun that you can keep him around. I mean, certainly obviously fighting in Australia, but and again, we're talking about the heavyweight division, right? We're not talking about bantamweight or lightweight where there's 100 guys on the roster. I mean, there's like 32 guys on the roster at heavyweight. So, you're in need for star power. This is the Paramount era, right? They want entertainment. They want people to pull in. And so they could, but I would not be shocked to see to find out that he's no longer part of the UFC roster. I'd hate to see it, especially because, as you said, I thought there was a chance to win this thing late. I thought this was a favorable matchup. Taliesin Teixeira was certainly out of gas, and Tai kind of smothered himself a couple times late. He had him hurt, and then he would go to the clinch, and you're like, man, what are you doing? Like, just back away. But I think Ty's gas tank was hurting him too, and he needed the clinch so he could, so he could hold himself up and catch his breath. So this was tough to watch. Ty's such a good dude. He's such a fun guy to watch, but it would not shock me if he's no longer part of the UFC roster.
Yeah, well, I hope not. I'll always watch him fight.
Agreed.
And refresh my memory, when he fought Cyril Gane, about 2 years ago, was that for an interim shot?
It was not, but I think it was like, this is going to clear the path for you to get there. You know what I mean? So, the next fight was for the heavyweight title. I mean, Cyril Gane beats Tai Tuivasa, and then he faces John Jones.
So I said we were going to double back, and it's time to double back. All right. Alexander Volkanovski, 6 title defenses, won the bantamweight world title twice. His only bantamweight loss is to Ilia Topuria, who's now up a division, and honestly talking about going up even another, right, at some point. So in his division, in reality, nobody in his division has beaten him. He's got 6 title defenses, he's won it twice. Jon Anik we were kind of, me and you offline, we're talking about like, hey, we love the enthusiasm, but it's quick to throw the GOAT talk on somebody. But let's have the discussion, because I think it's worth having. A lot of people are talking about it right now. And I think it comes down to, you could throw a dark horse Conor McGregor in that conversation at 45. But it's definitely between Aldo and it's against Volkanovski. Make your case. Who is the GOAT and why?
For me, the GOAT is Jose Aldo. And I mean that out of no disrespect to Alexander Volkanovski. And to be honest, I don't think Alexander Volkanovski would take any disrespect in that. I know he has a lot of reverence for Jose Aldo as well. To me, it boils down to title defenses. And you're right, Alexander Volkanovski has 6 title defenses, so he's right behind Jose Aldo, who has 7. But I will factor in WC as well. I go with 9. I mean, to me, that era when Zuffa owned the WC and there were no lighter weight classes in the UFC. And I think people nowadays might not realize that. There wasn't even 145 and 135. That was the WC. So to me, it's not like saying, well, this guy came over from Strikeforce and I got to count those, or this guy came from Pride and I got to count those. No. This was the elite of the level at 125, 35, 45. And Jose Aldo had 2 title defenses in the WC. So to me, it's 9 title defenses total for Jose Aldo. They're consecutive as well. I don't want to hold Volkanovski's losses against him, to be honest with you. I really don't. Maybe the Topuria loss, you could at least say that's a legitimate loss. But him going up to 155 and challenging himself to take on a second weight class, I don't want to count that against him in his greatness at featherweight, right? So I'm not counting that one against him. But he does have the loss to Ilia Topuria. Jose Aldo did not have a loss. He was unbeaten through that entire time. He had 9 title defenses total. To me, it's still Jose Aldo, simply because I look at greatness as longevity. That's what I look at, is I beat everybody in the division. And listen, I won't even hold it against Alexander Volkanovski that he's had these rematches, right? As he said coming in, I just fight the people they tell me to fight. I didn't say I need to fight Max Holloway 3 times. I didn't say I need to fight Diego Lopes again. They just gave him to me. So I won't even hold that against him, because I think, to me, greatness is when, like Jose Aldo, like George St. Pierre, like Anderson Silva, like John Jones in his prime, where you look at the top of the division and you go through contenders 1 through 10, and they all had their shot and they all came up short. Jose Aldo did that. So while I believe Alexander Volkanovski is one of the greatest to ever do this, I believe if we're saying who was the best at featherweight, for me, it's still Jose Aldo. And that doesn't mean that Volkanovski can't get there. We said he's not slowing down at 37. And people may say, yeah, but look at the end of Jose Aldo's career. And I get that. But that run that he had at the top, that to me is still the greatest featherweight of all time.
I agree with you pretty much on every single point. And I'm going to add some as well about why. Now, listen, this by no means takes away from anything of Alexander Volkanovski.
No.
If it wasn't for Jose Aldo, yeah, he would be the GOAT. He would be, right? Yes, he was in the WEC because there was nothing below 155. That's a fact, right? And he was running through Cub Swanson. He was running through Uriah Faber. He was running through everybody. So I look at it from a standpoint, not only do I believe with you with the title defenses, but also in the manner in which he did it. This guy, it wasn't close. I mean, maybe you might want to say like who Mark Hominick may have challenged him a little bit in that Montreal or in that one fight, but this hematoma on his head.
In the stadium in Toronto. I mean,
and Jose Aldo dominated 3.5 out of those 4 rounds. Hominick came on late, but maybe you want to say that was the competitive fight there, But the manner in which he was doing it was we had never seen it like that before, and he. Dare I say, if there was not a Jose Aldo, do you think WEC would have been bought? Would have been acquired?
Ooh, he was a big reason behind it. That's for sure, man. That was a big reason behind it. Yeah, it's funny because you say Conor McGregor. You said maybe you want to throw Conor McGregor. Now, Conor McGregor, you can't deny, is the biggest star in the history of the sport, right? He revolutionized the game. Massive superstar. But to me, and I know he beat Jose Aldo, right? And so people may say, well, if you're saying Jose Aldo's the best and Conor McGregor knocked him out in 13 seconds, doesn't that make him the greatest? I understand that, but I honestly believe, and it's a good thing, Conor brought so many eyeballs to the sport of people that were not watching the sport, that people that had no idea who Jose Aldo was. And if that was your introduction to Jose Aldo, was him getting knocked out at UFC 194 in 13 seconds, it's a disservice to not understand, because you're so right about the domination. And the leg kicks were that was the guy, the nasty ripping leg kicks of Jose Aldo, the striking, the takedown defense, the underrated takedown defense, where everybody's like, yeah, you just got to take him down because you don't want to stand with him. Like, good luck with that, because you're not getting him down.
I challenge everybody to go back and watch Uriah Faber, Jose Aldo from Sacramento. It was in Sacramento, in Uriah Faber's backyard. And I still to this day believe that Jose Aldo showed mercy on Uriah Faber in that fight. Uriah Faber could not stand up after round 3. And Jose Aldo just didn't throw leg kicks, essentially 4 and 5.
I was in the building that night, and I have never visibly winced so hard at leg kicks in my life. Like, every time he would hit him, it was just like, oh, stop. Like, stop. And
he did stop, though. He was nice. He did stop. Do you agree that he showed a little bit of
he did. He absolutely did. And that's another thing about Jose Aldo as well, man, is Jose Aldo is one of those guys that, other fighters, when he walks into the room, they get excited. You know what I mean? It's so cool to see that, because when you're around the Performance Institute, or when you're around Fight Week and you're walking around the hotels, and technically everybody on the card is the peer of everyone else, right? They're all in the UFC. They're all UFC athletes. But there are certain guys like Shogun Rua had that aura about him where he would walk around like everybody, no matter who, was like, oh, damn, that's Shogun. Same thing with Aldo, man. The way he carried himself, the way he carried himself with class. And again, and I'm not saying that factors into my willingness to call him the GOAT. I just want people to know that maybe weren't around during that era how great this guy was. And again, you look at the run, you talked about it, man. Beats Cub Swanson and Mike Brown and Uriah Faber and Manny Gambarian in the WC. Then comes over to the UFC, Hominick, Kenny Florian, Chad Mendez, Frankie Edgar, Korean Zombie, Ricardo Lamas, Mendes again has the loss to Conor McGregor. And again, there are the later years. And if all you saw were the later years when he basically turned into a boxer in the later years. He had a lot of injuries with the legs because of the kicks and that sort of thing. So, we didn't necessarily see the greatness at the end. But if you were around in the WC era and you were around from, that 2008 to 2015 type run, Jose Aldo was just incredible. And again, I'll just go back to title defenses. And to me, that is what makes it. Volk can still get there. You know what I mean? And if Volk, continues to rack up title defenses and maybe beats the next area, maybe we reevaluate. But for me right now, I just look at 9 consecutive title defenses. I look at no losses. I look at that run. And to me, Jose Aldo is the greatest featherweight of all time.
I 100% agree. And I challenge you, everybody that may be a newer fan, and even I say newer fan, like within the last 10 years, right? Go back, pop in some WEC on UFC Fight Pass. Go and watch the Cub Swanson fight.
Ugh.
Go and watch the Uriah Faber fight. And then start watching his early UFC runs. And you're going to see that this guy changed the game. And dare I say, there might not have been an acquisition if it wasn't for Uriah Faber or it wasn't for a Jose Aldo, because he was getting that popular. Right. That's why the Conor McGregor fight was so big. It was because Jose Aldo was that great. And it wasn't just Conor McGregor's star power and popularity. It was his star power and popularity going up against a guy who had been so dominant for so long and so beloved that, yes, he's the GOAT as of right now. Maybe if Volk can get 2-3 more title defenses, we're reevaluating. Right now, Jose Aldo number 1, Volk number 2. Let's have the discussion from there on remaining. And I still thank Conor McGregor for changing the game and bringing so many eyeballs to the sport. I mean, I don't think that, we could honestly get all of this back down to Conor McGregor. The ESPN deal, the Paramount deal, all these, like, Conor McGregor was a big part of it. He just wasn't he's just not the GOAT of that bantamweight division. That's all. That's
it. And obviously, I mean, Conor is amazing. You laid it out there, special. But to me, the no title defenses hurts when you start talking about the greatest ever. Like the fact that he never defended a title. And I understand he was the first double champ, and again, it revolutionized the game as well, and brought it to another level. There's no doubt. The thing I always like to say about Conor McGregor is that I do not believe you can count him among the pound for pound greatest in the history of the sport. However, if you're writing a book documenting the history of MMA and you don't have a chapter on Conor McGregor, then your book is not complete. You did not write anything, a complete tale of the history of mixed martial arts. But title defense is really, and I'll be honest with you, it's why, like, I don't love this 2-belt era where people just immediately, they win and they want to move up. Like, I think, beating all of your peers, like beating every challenger out there just goes so far to showing your greatness, and just defending the belt once or twice and going up and winning it in another division. I get it. I understand why people want to do it, but I'm not such a fan of it. And that's why I think title defense is what registers your greatness. By the way, I was just looking at some of these old WC cards as we were talking about WC, man. What a great organization, man. If you weren't around, I agree. If you're new to the sport, man, fire up Fight Pass and go check out some of those old WC events, man. The final WC event.
Hold on. It gave birth to Cowboy. It gave birth to Dominic Cruz, Uriah Faber, Jose Aldo. These are all first ballot Hall of Famers, right? Yes. And it also gave a birth to Jose Cub Swanson, the Korean Zombie.
Yes. Unbelievable.
Brian Stan. You remember
Brian Stan? Of course. Brian Stan, the legend, man. Yeah. I was just looking at, the final card. People probably don't realize that, as many times as you've seen the Showtime kick, where Anthony Pettis is jumping off the cage like a ninja.
Pettis and Henderson.
And that Anthony Pettis, Benson Henderson, is the final WC fight in history. That move, the Showtime kick, was in the final round of the final fight in WC history. That's amazing. That night was
Jose Aldo and Anthony Pettis lost that fight.
Amazing, man. Dominic Cruz with Scott Jorgensen, Cowboy Cerrone, Chris Hordesky was on there. Kamal Shalaru's part. That just go fire us. That was a great era of the sport, man. And bring the W. And it was so cool. I was talking to John Crouch about this. I went out and I was on his podcast recently, and I was talking to him. I can't remember if we were on camera or off camera. We were talking about it, but Benson Henderson was there in the gym. I drove out to Arizona, the MMA lab, and shook Benson's hand and was talking. I'm remembering that time. I loved the chip on the shoulder that the WC guys had. You remember that? Like, they came in and everybody's like, yeah, but they've been over the WC. They're not really going to be able to perform in the UFC.
What did Benson Henderson do when he came into the UFC? He became instantly the UFC lightweight champion and probably had 4 defenses?
Yep. Unbelievable.
And then who did he lose to?
Who was the loss?
Anthony Pettis, WEC guy.
A WEC fighter. Yeah, it's right. Yeah, I was thinking about the RDA loss, but that was later on. That was a fight night. That wasn't for the title. Yeah, lost to Pettis in Milwaukee, actually. Yeah, lost to a fellow WEC guy. So, man, unbelievable, man. Just a great era.
Remember the Cowboy Jamie Varner rivalry?
They did not like each other very much.
May have been honestly, you take just the popularity there, but that may have been one of the most hated rivalries in this sport. They could probably do documentaries off that rivalry. They hated each other. Such a good time, man. And it felt like, I don't know, it was like even before the Zuffa purchase, and it was a great little organization, and then the Zuffa purchase brought it to another level. And then once they brought it all in, it's funny because we saw the same thing happen. The UFC wanted to have both brands simultaneously, but you kind of realize how tough that is. And we saw history repeat itself, right, with PFL and Bellator. Mm-hmm. You just can't really have 2 brands competing against each other. It's tough to educate the audience on what's happening there. So, great era. And again, listen, circling back, I don't want to take away from Alexander Volkanovski. It's not like I'm saying, it's like if you're debating, is it Jordan or is it LeBron or you know what I mean? It's not like you're saying the other one's terrible or the other one's no good. No, we're just saying they're the 2 best that we're even debating it.
That's it. Those are the 2. And at one point you would say Holloway, but Holloway, obviously, I think he's just a little bit of a step tier below in terms of what their resumes have accomplished. But obviously, Holloway is a massive superstar and incredibly loved. So, you could throw him in that conversation as well.
But you know what? But what Holloway did is he's now multiple divisions. And so we could even talk about him on the pound for pound great list, but just not maybe bantamweight.
Right. Because you're featherweight. Because you're talking about what they accomplished in that division. So,
featherweight, my fault. Bantamweight.
To me, it's still Aldo, but again, Volkanovski though is like you said, it's 1A, 1B, so no disrespect to him at all. But to me, it's still going to be Aldo.
Yeah. Hey, and by the way, you mentioned PFL and Bellator. New CEO was on Grind City Media interview with you. Go back and check it out. They have a very. I really like the kind of the redo of the approach of what they're doing. I think it doesn't do anything but serve MMA well. It's going to make them a better brand internationally, spot showing U.S. events. I really like it. It gives me an alternate. They are not trying to say we are going up against the UFC. And I really, really enjoy that. It's a breath of fresh air and great interview, by the way.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I like John Martin a lot, man. I've enjoyed getting to know him, and I like what he's doing as well. Should say, PFL is back in action this week. That was kind of the event we were previewing as well. They're in Dubai, which is the great thing we know about when the events are in the Middle East. That means here, they're early in the morning. So if you want to get up Saturday morning and you want to start watching some fights at 9 a.m., you can do that. And they've got some really good fights on the card. But you are right. It's good for there to be alternatives for fighters, right? It's good to have a bidder for services, right? There's not exactly free agency between teams and that sort of thing, right? So how can a fighter, drive up their price and make the most money possible. It's because they have multiple bidders on their services, right? And so you need another major event. Not that the UFC doesn't try to pay and be as fair as they can, but if you really want to have an open, bidding for your services, you need to have multiple suitors for that. And the PFL can be that. So, they've gone through a lot of changes, and we outlined it. I appreciated John really kind of just addressing everything head on and being candid and talking about it. That they know what they've got to do, but so far, man, as you said, I like the direction they're moving in, and it seems like he could potentially be the right guy for the job. He knows the sport, and that's key. So it's good.
Yeah, I mean, and you got Usman fighting this weekend. Go ahead and check it out. There's a kid. There's a kid in PFL. I think that he's going to be a household name before too long. Alex Pergrande.
Mm-hmm.
That kid is special. He's fighting in PFL and they locked him up. So they're, maybe all the best guys aren't going into the UFC, but it is definitely the best promotion. But I do like the fact that saying, like, listen, I'm not going to be like the Bellators or what PFL was before. We are not going to try and go like knock the UFC off their spot. And it's just a smart approach to it. It doesn't create a rivalry. It doesn't make UFC want to run against you same day and time. It does. And it's just better for the sport.
Yeah. It's one thing that's true. Like you don't have to rival the UFC. Like the UFC can only put on so many events. Now, granted, it's a lot of events, and they're going to be the biggest. And
46 this year.
Yeah, but there are other days of the week. There are other markets, so again, they're in Dubai. They're going to Spain this year. I mean, there's other markets. The UFC can't go to every city, and they can't be in every time zone. So just realize that, hey, we don't have to rival them. We can still be an alternative, and we can be another organization, because there are hardcore fight fans like me and you that would watch fights every day of the week if there was an organization putting.
And they're not taking shots at the UFC anymore.
Right.
Like, they're so damn smart. It's like, worry about you. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. I love that approach, just in business and in life, and especially this. Like, you don't want to pick a fight with Dana White. Like, let's start.
Well, yeah. In MMA in particular, like it does you no good to rile up the 800-pound gorilla in the room in the UFC and Dana White. But you're so right about that. I think that I love that you said it, because I think that's so true in all aspects of business, in all life. Like, yes, you need to be aware of like what the UFC scheduling is in terms of like, it would behoove you not to be on at the same time as them, just because now you're fighting for eyeballs. But you can't worry about their business all the time. Just worry about your business. Make your business the best it can be. And don't worry so much about what everybody else is doing, other than to just be aware of what's out there in the market. And so, hoping for good things for the PFL. It's a shame to see, the fact that Bellator went away. But look, we saw the writing on the wall there. We just talked about it. The UFC, WC, we've seen this happen before. It doesn't work. You can't run two different brands, and there's confusion as to what it all means. So this was the right move in consolidating it all into the PFL. And now, like you said, don't be wishing for their demise. Be wishing for the success, because it's good for the sport to have some competition.
All right, we got a UFC fight night from the Meta
Apex.
The Meta Apex Center. This coming up. It's not a number card. It's a fight night. And so I know people are going to start complaining again, but give me a break. We got Mario Batista and Vinicius Oliveira headlining the card. You're getting 3 weeks in a row of fights on Paramount Plus. Who can complain about that? I will be watching. Don't worry.
Great main event. Obviously, like I said, this is a fight night card, so it's it's going to be more of the up and comers down the card.
And we get to see the renovations.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So, number one, the card itself, Mario Batista, Vinicius Oliveira, very, very exciting stylistic fight at bantamweight. And these guys are two of the guys that look like they're kind of the next wave of bantamweight contenders. Amir Albazi versus Kyoji Horiguchi. That is a huge fight in the flyweight division. Massive there. Gelton Almeida is back against Rizvan Kuniev. Some great fights at the top, as you would expect. And then some great names up and down. But yes, you talked about it, the renovations. Now, for anybody that has been watching, Zuffa Boxing has already done a couple of events as well. I've been in the building for those. The new Apex setup is nice. Now, I don't know what it's going to look like. And so I'm actually really excited for this. Now, I've got a CFFC on Friday night. We can talk about that in a moment, because it's a great card on CFFC. But I'm going to fly back on Saturday. I'm actually really anxious to see the setup. Now, Dana White has said they're not done with the construction yet. They still have more construction to do at the Meta Apex. That'll be done in May. By the time they get done in May, they said there's going to be seating for 1,100 people. But they've done a couple boxing events in there already. And I will tell you, It is. I love the feel of it, man. I really, really love the feel of it for the boxing events. But I will say I don't know that the setup is going to be exactly the same because I feel like the cage is the footprint of the cage is bigger than the ring was. But we will see on Saturday. But it is a different feel. They
were darkening the house too.
They really darkening the house. But I think the big key is just the fact that you've got. It's built up a little bit more. So the crowd is built up a little bit more. You've got tickets. Because this is what I always said, too. It wasn't always just the number of bodies that were in the Apex. True. It was kind of who's there, right? It's a lot of – basically, it's like $1,500 tickets, because it was all like VIP package, which was, open bar and all you can eat and all that. But, that's kind of the highbrow people that aren't necessarily going to be cutting loose. Or it was like VIPs that got comps, and they're also not going to – they're going to be kind of – controlling themselves a little bit, because they're invited guests, right? So they're kind of going to be professional while they're in there. The tickets now are like $250, $300, $400, but not cheap, but cheaper and more affordable, especially as because you've been in there. It is a very cool environment if you're a fan of fights because you are right on top of it. So
I tell people you have no idea just how cool it is being in there.
It really is because you're right on top of the action. You're never going to be closer. You're not. It's a cool
if you're
setup.
Selling tickets at $300 for that experience, I think it's a steal.
I think it's worth it because you're never. I mean, there's again, if you're at Madison Square Garden or T-Mobile Arena and there's 18,000 people, there is something cool and everybody's cheering and the unit. It's awesome. But for that price, to be right up on the action, to be that close, there's not a bad seat in there.
Yeah, for if the tickets are $300, that would be a $1,500 ticket in any venue.
Absolutely. So it's worth it. So I'm anxious to see it. So something to watch for people on TV. See if the experience is a little bit different. See if you enjoy it a little bit more. Know that it's not completed yet. The Meta Apex, there is still more construction going on, but this will be the MMA debut, I guess, of the new kind of renovated Meta Apex. Again, the Zuffa Boxing is they've had a couple events. The next Zuffa Boxing is February 15th. It looks like they're settling in on Sunday night as kind of their time slots. They had some great fights, by the way. Last night, Sunday night. So great stuff. And by the way, that's on
Paramount Plus as well, right?
That's on Paramount Plus as well. One more thing. I mean, you got to have Paramount Plus, right? And
you get Landman.
And you get Landman, which is a phenomenal show. Listen, I do want to say this was cool. So obviously the first event was at T-Mobile Arena, and I was in the building, and so I watched it live. And I did go back and watch it on replay, but I was doing other stuff. This one, of course, I didn't make the trip down to Australia, so I was watching everything just as everybody else, live and tuned in. I got to say, man, I thought Paramount and ESPN deserve some credit, man. They made some quick adjustments, right? Like, what were the frustrations last time? Like, man, we didn't get to see the walkouts. Hey, we got to see the walkouts this time, right? We didn't get all the time in between rounds, but we did get some instructions in between rounds, and so at least they're kind of aware of that a little bit. And I'm going to say something kind of funny. This is bizarre, but I feel like the way they're doing the commercials now, it's weird, but it kind of keeps the pace very fast because you're bouncing around instead of just having to fill air in between fights and we got to talk and we got to go to this package. It's kind of bouncing back and forth and they're just quick little segments. But I don't know, man. I mean, we're only 2 events into this Paramount relationship, but I feel like they made some nice adjustments between event 1 and event 2. And I thought it was a very, very enjoyable viewing experience on Saturday with this pay-per-view card, or excuse me, this numbered event. So I just want to give some kudos to them because I thought they did a great job. And the more I think about it, and I think we touched on this a little bit last week, but I really do feel like this era is going to be good, right? Because when you're with ESPN, you don't take away from ESPN. Obviously, they're the sports leader and their name carries cachet, but they're covering everything as a sport. It's wins and losses and it's a sport, right? But we've always said MMA is like the stories and the entertainment, right? And now you're with a story and an entertainment company, right? That's what they do. So yes, they know they're showing a sport, but it's like, I feel like their video packages and their ads and that sort of stuff, they more embrace kind of the story side. And I think that's good for MMA because MMA is about personalities and stories. And it's more than just the typical, we lay out the season and whoever gets the most wins is in the championship and et cetera, et cetera. It's about these storylines. And I feel like Paramount embraces that. So I don't know, man, a couple weeks in, I'm excited, man. I feel like it's a good partnership so far.
It's easy. It's accessible. It's a great product with great production. It's a can't miss right now. Hey, CFFC this weekend, you said you got 3 title fights. Tell me about it.
We're back, man. I love it. It's been. We usually take January's off to kind of get everything lined out for the year, but we're back this Friday night in 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. Dean Thomas will be with me on UFC Fight Pass, so tune in. Yeah, 3 title fights. Welterweight title fight. Kevin Peace won the welterweight title, but then he vacated it because he's actually working on a move down to lightweight. And he said, man, I'm glad I won this, but I'm actually going to 155. So pay attention to Kevin Peace coming back later this year at 55. But that opened up the 170 title. You got Basirman Jumagul. This kid is, looking like a monster his entire career. 4-0 with us, 4 finishes. He's gathered a lot of attention. He's been featured as like a Fight Pass fighter to watch, etc. Going up against Daniel Morrison, who has a lot more experience. Came in and got a win last time out. He was dominant against the former title challenger, and he got this opportunity. So this is a big, big fight. Both these guys have UFC potential, real big there. So that's the lightweight title, the welterweight title. Lightweight title's on the line in the co-main event, vacant there as well. Nikita Leshikov, this kid is getting a lot of looks. He's on a lot of lists as top prospects to watch. He's from France. He's undefeated. He's a knockout artist, but he's relocated to Las Vegas. He's living here in Las Vegas, training with Extreme Couture, and he's undefeated at 7-0. He's going up against Will Starks, more experienced as well, at 11-3. So big opportunities for these two guys to feel like they're on the cusp of maybe a contender series or, the UFC later this year. And then a women's strawweight title fight, Arisa Matsuda and Ayan Tursun, Japan versus Kyrgyzstan, Japan versus Kazakhstan, I should say. Basirman's from Kyrgyzstan, but an international showdown. Arisa was actually on road to UFC. She's undefeated. Ayan had 1 loss. It's by split decision. So 3 incredibly high-level title fights. And then there's this great fight. Obviously, you're always going to talk about the championship matchups, but one that kind of all of us internally all have circled as well, Damian Anderson versus Alejandro Gutierrez. Damian Anderson, BJJ black belt extraordinaire, amazing grappler. He actually is the owner of Simple Man Martial Arts, which used to be B-Team Jiu-Jitsu, out of this world jiu-jitsu, but is becoming a complete well-rounded martial artist as well, against Hondo Gutierrez, who had a 17-second knockout in his debut for us. He's 4-1. Hondo comes out of New Mexico out of that Fit NHB gym, just scraps, right? Like, just wants to absolutely, like, Hondo will literally fight. It's amazing. Will anybody, anywhere, anytime, he's that guy. Because Damian Anderson, not a lot of people want to fight him. He's so well respected as a jiu-jitsu stylist. He's an incredible athlete, undefeated as a prospect. And Hondo's like, yeah, absolutely, give me this guy. So that is a great one.
When you got Ron Humphreys fighting?
That'll be Ron Humphrey is going to be fighting against Liam Hamill, Matt Hamill's nephew, which is a great fight. 2 undefeated athletes. That'll be March 13th at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Florida. So he'll be debuting in Tampa. That card is stacked as well, man. That card is looking really, really good. We're actually going back to the Hard Rock. We were at the Florida State Fairgrounds for a while, but we're going back to the Hard Rock is where we first started in Tampa. So that's March 13th, March 27th, Atlantic City. It's going to be a busy schedule this year. I think we'll do 14 events total this year. So we're getting it started on February 6th.
Good for you, man. I'll be third man in the cage. Same night, so watch CFFC, but I'll be watch my boy John Morgan at CFFC, but I'll be on the cage. I'll be third man in the cage at LFA this weekend as well.
Very nice. Awesome. Keeping the assignments going, staying busy. I love it. Yeah. Yep. Go back and, watch that later and check out a replay. Obviously, you're tuning in for Eric McMahon. There's probably maybe there's some fighters there you want to watch, maybe not, but really you just tuned in to watch the excellent refereeing being done. But yeah.
In all fairness, right? It's LFA and CFFC are the 2 premier regional promotions that are the feeder systems. LFA, historically, CFFC probably more the recent and maybe elevated.
Yeah, it's a friendly rivalry. Obviously, Ed Soros, I've known Ed for 20 years, man, that runs LFA, and so obviously a good friend. And heck, my birthday last year at the UFC, I sat next to him, and I think my wife and kid got annoyed with me because me and Ed were just talking fights in the sport the whole time. So it's a friendly rivalry. We want to get the best prospects and send the most people to the UFC, but obviously we always wish them success. They're friends as well.
Yeah, good product as well. So I'll be there. But John Morgan on UFC Fight Pass this Friday night from the what arena again?
The legendary 2300 Arena, home of the ECW, baby. Boy, it's going to be cold in Philadelphia. I'm not looking forward to it. It has been this January, Eric. It ended up being, I believe, the warmest January in the history of Los Angeles. It was like 70 degrees, 65, 70 degrees, like damn near every day in January.
Shut your mouth to what I've been doing here. Just shut your mouth. All right? have been in an apocalyptic war zone out here starting last Friday. A week ago Friday, it started raining and snowing, and then through the weekend, and then freezing rain, and it has not got above freezing the whole time. So our roads, we don't have the infrastructure to go clear roads and all this. We have been a 1 foot, not 1 foot, 6-inch sheet of ice over the entire city. My kids have been out of school. They're still out of school from a week ago Friday.
Wow.
My neighborhood is almost still inaccessible. Just because there's tracks on the major streets, but not inside the neighborhoods. It is outrageous. And today it finally is getting to 40 degrees. So we're finally thawing out today, which thank goodness, but has been miserable. You've heard about this epic winter storm that went through the South and into the East Coast. We were dead smack in the middle of it, and it has been horrible.
Man, I've heard the horror stories, man. Like you said, it's not like, the city of Memphis is going to have an army of snowplows ready to go and clean out the streets. You don't see weather like this. So, wow, man. Well, hopefully it warms up a little bit for you guys week and you can melt off, because I had heard that all the schools were shut down and the city was shut down. It was tough. So, have you still been like driving to work and that sort of thing though?
I still have been, right? But even like my gyms, I've had to close my gym. My gym's been closed over a week. It's the first day we're opening back again today. Like, you couldn't even get into the parking lot.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Yeah, we've been lucky. It's been an amazing winter in Las Vegas. So yeah, now it's my turn to go suffer a little cold out in Philly. But I'm looking forward to a hell of a card. So Friday night, 2300 Arena. Make sure you tune in, and then Saturday you got PFL in the morning and UFC at night. Man, what a weekend! What a weekend. With that being said, for John Morgan, I'm Eric McMahon. Enjoy the fights.